Well, hello traders and investors. I'm L.A. Little and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets and we're doing it from a neoclassical perspective. Each time we're asking ourselves what happened today and what does it tell us about the coming ones. I do this show 5 times a week. I do it on Sunday evenings and then Monday through Thursday daily shows. It's broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time, archived on YouTube, and it's under the channel L.A. Little. If you want to subscribe, just reach up in the right hand corner and do so. Anytime I push content, you'll get a notification. And we got some great stuff going on. These Cradle to Grave series, that we've been printing. Now these are, tape delayed. Members get them live. Members also get the trades live. But you can follow along and learn how the neoclassical works by just simply following along with these trades. We've been putting them out for a while. You can, pop back in here and get the very beginning ones. Looks like it started right here. So if you're interested in that, take a look at it and, just subscribe. And anytime I push this content, you'll get a notification. You can keep up to date with what's happening. Going back here to the quotes again, today was another consolidation day. We pushed down. We had pushed down already in the markets the last couple of days. Today did the same thing, but they ended up pretty flat, not that much of a difference really. The big drop came on the Russell, and if you look at the Russell, down another 1.6%. We'll look at that chart kind of closely. If you go back the last 2 years, the Russell has been the dog. This has been the one that's been keeping everything from going up. So far this year, it switched over and was the NDX, but today the NDX was kind of getting the baton handed over to them, and they were trying to carry the market higher. In particular, it was Apple. There was news on Apple that the sales maybe, the channel checks are showing that the sales are maybe better than expected, and Apple had a nice big up day as a result. We actually called that trade on Apple yesterday in the trading room. My colleague Fraser pushed that news out yesterday, and some of the members actually got a hold of it, myself included, and held on to make some money on that big bump today. The DAX was down again. We'll take a look at that chart. That continues to languish now after it did that over-under, which was a failure at the top of the Draghi bar. And if we look elsewhere, not a lot else going on. We had the dollar up slightly, and we had the oil market down 2%. So an interesting mix. As we look at the charts here, what you're going to see is that these markets are probably going to try to flip around and go right back the other way. So here's the S&P 500. Now yesterday, if you remember, I called out that we should get a down day today, and that was a result of this over-under. It was, at first I said it was a 2-bar, but we actually had this consolidation that made me, reclaim that and say, well, it really wasn't a 2-bar. Today you had a little bit higher volume, but not much. But the key today is you came into the big volume bar. Folks, when you're doing the market, when you're trying to read the charts, when you're reading the tape, what you're looking for is things that are significant. This bar has all the volume. That was the big bar up. As you come back into it, you test into it, you have absolutely no volume. You do a little hammer reversal. This thing's going to push back up and test the top again tomorrow. And that's on the Fed news tomorrow. So that's what that one looks like. If we go over to the NASDAQ also pushes back, does a little hammer reversal as well. And we're talking very minor stuff here, so nothing major, but also looks like it can try and trade higher. And if we look at the NDX, which actually got that baton pushed to it today, the NDX, actually the last 2 or 3 days, is hanging up there, not giving it up, still fighting this big bar at 43.60 roughly, but still over it and holding. Also looks like it can go higher. The one that looks different is the Russell. Now the Russell, if you remember, the Russell is tied at the hip with the oil market. And when I say it's tied, it's not because the oil market is a large percentage of what's inside the Russell. That's not the case. The issue is that you have banks, which are the largest sector inside the Russell. And those banks are worried about defaults as a result of the oil industry. And so when oil goes down as it did, right, the banks get killed. Here's the regional banking ETF. And you can see as the banking ETF rose, starting February, well, actually started back on the 11th, then on the 24th, as it rose, that allowed the Russell to put some distance from that low and push straight on up. Now the Russell finding difficulty up here at the highs. And what's happening is the oil market, and I'll use the USO for lack of a better one right now, but the oil market itself is struggling here at this level and is actually trying to break down, and that's what's putting the pressure back on the Russell. Now, if we look at the oil market and look at it on a long-term perspective, and I'd rather look at the WTI, but I don't have it handy here, so I'm going to look at it using the USO. And the USO gives it a worse feature than it is on the WTI. But what you had was you had a huge push down. Now you got a bounce. Folks, there's no way to look at this chart and think it's bullish or even sideways. It's bearish. It's bearish on every time frame, whether you're looking at the monthly time frame, whether you're looking at the daily time frame, whether you're looking at the weekly time frame. They're all bearish. Well, I guess I could take that back and say, you know, maybe the daily time frame isn't bearish. It's actually showing as bullish now. But you know, certainly the longer time frames are not bullish. And so, you know, if I'm going to say, hey, this thing's found a bottom, it's way premature to say that, right? I suspect, you know, when all things are said and done and we're out, you know, some distant in the future, and you know, maybe we're out to another 2 months out, you're going to see this oil market still probably trading in some sort of a range down here, and it's probably more likely going to be at the middle or the lower end of this range before it starts breaking out of the top of the range. So don't expect oil to recover that much more in a short period of time. Possible, yeah. Likely, no. It's not likely. It's probably not the likely case, and one shouldn't be expecting things that aren't the likely case. And so that's what's happening with the Russell. So going back to the Russell real quickly here, let me just type it back in. The situation now is, can it hold these lows, right? Volume's trailing off. What I would be looking for is, can it hold this area and push back the other way and not become the sore thumb that it has been over the last couple of years. You know, the last couple of years, this thing has signaled that the markets couldn't go higher. Question is can the Russell hold, or is the Russell going to give it up? And if I bring it over here and put the Russell on the weekly, the real test is going to be this retest regen that's going on now. And if the Russell can get over that, then something's cooking. If it can't, then everything's really just the same, and all we did was have a bounce. And the Russell is the only major index that has broken down and no longer is bullish on the monthly time frame. So if I pull in the monthly time frame here and just switch it this way, if you look at it here, it's the only one that's shifted already. The question will be, is it just a bounce that's going to fail and turn around and head back down the other way, right? And are we going to get some sort of a continuation ABCD structure? You had this one already. Now are you going to get a continuation with some sort of a bounce continuation to the downside? And that's the real question that's out there. And the Russell, being the weakest of the group, is the one to be watching with respect to that. Moving on to the international indexes, I want to take a quick look at the German DAX. Now last night, I told you on the DAX, essentially the DAX had failed on the Draghi bar. And the bar I'm talking about was the announcement on Thursday where you had the huge reversal on Draghi's conference call when he suggested that there probably wouldn't be any more cuts. No more QE probably, and certainly not any more NERP, negative interest rates pushing them even farther down. And as a result of that, this market really had a tough time with it, and they reversed hard, and they left volume. So yesterday you come up, you test that top, and again, when you're reading the tape, you're asking what's significant. Well, when you get that kind of a volume spurt, that's significant. One concept of an anchor bar in neoclassical is a wide price spread bar. That's wide price spread. Another is an anchor bar. That's an anchor bar. The weighting of those two gives this a lot of weight. And it's probably going to turn out to be, well, I don't know if it'll be a swing point low or not, but it may. And if so, it becomes even more important. And so as this bar starts to contain price, which is likely now, it's probably going to contain price for a while, that's going to keep this market from trying to move higher, the European market in general. And if the European market can't move higher, then what is our market going to do? I suspect it's going to have the same problem. As for tomorrow, look for the market to try to rally up into the Fed meeting, and then we'll see if they want to sell the news. I don't have a strong feeling after that. As I told you last night, my expectation is that this market is going to find a reason to sell down, and it's going to find it fairly soon. The first key, right, is this bar. If you're going to get lower, you got to get under that bar. So watch that bar if you want to know when the turn has come. That's it for tonight, folks. Have yourself a great night. Tell a friend, tell two. I'm LA. This is and was your daily NeoTA wrap. Have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow. And we'll see what the Fed does to us. Take care. Good night.